Hi, welcome to episode 38 of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. This is a special spotlight on the comic Silver from Dark Planet Comics. I had a chance to talk with the creator, Stephan Franck, at Long Beach Comic Con earlier this month, and I'll play that interview for you at the end. In the meantime, let me tell you a little bit about the book. The book is set in the 1930s, and it's a real throwback to the old pulp novels and stories from way back when. It's about a thief, a con man, if you will, and his crew who are undertaking a heist when we first meet them in issue 1. Things don't go exactly as planned, and having lost their entire stash, they need a new job and they need it pretty quick. So the main character, that con man, Finnegan, puts together sort of a misfit crew, and really it seems like they're all sort of quirky and definitely their best days seem to be behind them. And they're all looking really for that last big score to kind of retire on. So while the story starts out meeting Finnegan and his crew, you definitely get a feel for the action. We don't know a lot about Finnegan, but he definitely comes across as that debonair thief, the swashbuckling feel of those old serials in the movies back in the 30s. So Stephan does a great job of capturing that feel. And then as the story progresses along, he really starts bringing in the horror elements. Because this final job that Finnegan and his crew are hoping to pull off is actually to steal a massive amount of silver from these ancient vampires in Transylvania. So as we meet the members of the crew as Finnegan assembles them, we get some really humorous character bits, and through the interactions from the members of the team, we really get a feel for how each of them is unique and what talents they're bringing to the party. The dialogue is just as well done as the characters. They're all interesting. The plotting and the pacing are both well done as well. Stephan Franck has a background in animation, and I feel like that background and that storytelling and the pacing that he learned in his animation days really serves him well to kind of make the story flow and keep you interested and keep you wanting more. That being said, for me, where the story really shines is the art. Stephan really brings some amazing panel layouts. The comic is in black and white, but I don't feel it suffers, and in fact, I think the noirish feel of the book is enhanced by having it be in black and white. And as I said, the panel layouts are simply amazing. There's many times where Stephan uses unique or different perspectives in a panel that really gives you a feel, and it helps heighten the mood and the overall storytelling of the tale he's unfolding. And although the comic is laid out in a fairly straightforward traditional comic book style with rectangular panels, the overall layouts of the panels on the page, you really get a sense of the experience that Stephan Franck has in storytelling, because each page in and of itself in the individual panels gives you a sense of great pacing and timing, helps heighten the tension during the action scenes, and helps move the story along when the scenes are more focused on character dialogue. The first 3 issues are collected in a trade paperback that you can go to darkplanetcomics.com and purchase. And then just recently at the aforementioned Long Beach Comic Expo, Stephan and his team debuted issue 4. So they do a lot of conventions here on the West Coast, and if you're at a convention, definitely seek him out. Stephan's a fun guy to talk to. He loves to talk about the book. If you purchase a copy, he'll most likely, if he's not too busy, do a little sketch in there of one of the characters for you. So you can certainly feel his passion for this book and for this series. It's supposed to be 12 issues, but I really feel that based on what I've read so far, that Stephan has more stories to tell. Every time I read the book, and I've read the first 3 issues 3 times and the 4th issue twice, each time I read them, I'm just left wanting more. I'm left with a sense of wonderment at just how great this story is, and I feel like it's a comic that I'm sure is flying under the radar because it's a self-published book, and it's pretty much just available at conventions or through the website. It's not really distributed through Diamond. I actually purchased my trade paperback of the first 3 issues through DCBS.com, but I looked on InStockTrades.com, the sister company of DCBS, and I wasn't able to find the trade paperback available there. But as I said, it is available at darkplanetcomics.com. I'll put the website address down here so you guys can check it out. And if you, like I said, if you're at a convention where they are, definitely seek them out. This is a book that is definitely worth reading. And you don't just have to take my word for it that this is a great book. It actually is Stephan's first comic work, and it was nominated for a Russ and Manning Award in 2014. So that certainly speaks to the quality of the book. And also, if you look back at some of the animated features that Stephan has worked on, like Iron Giant or Despicable Me, he definitely has the pedigree of a great storyteller. So I think those are reasons enough to pick up the book and read it. The art is amazing. It really suits the book. It suits the mood. It suits the story. It's a great story. I mean, those old classic Hollywood horror movies mixed with heist stories, which always intrigue me. And then on top of that, throw in the swashbuckling feel of kind of a crime film noir novel or a movie from the 1930s. And what you have is the recipe for an incredible story. So I'm going to play the interview that I conducted with Stephan at Long Beach Comic Expo earlier this month for you now. And once you're done listening to that, don't waste any time. Go out and order Silver right away. Okay, this is Jace from the Comic Source here with comic creator Stephan Franck. He's got the creator-owned book Silver, and if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's a great book, mix of horror, heist, thieving, high adventure. Kind of think Indiana Jones, but a little darker, let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Stephan, what can you tell me about the origin of the idea of the book?
Well, I grew up in France, and we had a TV show every Friday night, which was called Midnight Cinema. Mm-hmm. It was all the black and white movies of the 30s and 40s and even 20s. So it went from like masterpieces like your Todd Browning, your Fritz Lang, and all the B movie like your Nick Carter and all that stuff.
Right.
And all that stuff, it was in black and white, and it painted the picture of a world of mystery, like back when like before Google Earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when the world was a mysterious place. And so I always loved that world, and vampires and monsters were a big part of that. So that was one part of the equation, and then I always also loved con men and heist movies. Even like the Sting, Ocean's 11, that kind of stuff. And because thematically, soulmen and vampires are kind of similar. They're both soulless, if you will, predatory creatures. They live on the outskirts of society.
I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They don't engage in life in a productive way like you or I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have this guy who doesn't really live his life. You know what I mean? So he's figuratively soulless and the predator, and then you pit him against the vampires, and then it gives you an interesting perspective on what it means to be alive and how you live your life, and that feeling.
Right. Okay. And so when you were watching, how old were you when these movies started influencing you?
I was like 10,
Right. So in the formative years.
Exactly. So that on the movie side, it was that kind of stuff, and then on the the comic side, it was Will Eisner and Jack Kirby, that kind of stuff. And so you can totally see the gangster conman side with the Will Eisner inspiration. And then the Kirby stuff, I always love his giant mythological, like the Eternals and stuff like that, And so with this, we're taking the Bram Stoker Dracula universe, and we're extending it 40 years later into the noir pulp era of the 1930s, where those conmen are trying to steal from the vampires, right? But also we're keeping the exact lore, the Bram Stoker lore at the core, but we're extending it in every possible direction, in the past, in the future, on the sides, whichever way, right? So we added this giant mythology to it, where I get to connect with my Kirby correctness.
Right. One thing I noticed when I was reading the book, the first 3 issues I have in the trade, which it blew me away when I read it.
Thank you.
As soon as I was done, I think I sent you a Facebook message or a tweet. I was like, oh, this is so good. But one of the things I really loved was the storytelling and the layout from panel to panel.
Yeah.
Do you feel that your experience in animation really helps you lay down with your layouts and the way the story progresses from panel to panel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's my day job, if you will. I'm directing a movie at Sony right now, and so that kind of storytelling is what I know. But also, when I approached Silver originally, I was like, okay, because I first originally wrote it as a movie script. Again, because that's my format that I do.
Your go-to.
That's my go-to thing, right? So, and then when I started drawing it, I was like, Well, in fact, it's almost like I'm doing like the comics adaptation of the movie, right?
Right.
So it brought me back to the ones that I read as a kid. And for instance, what my favorite movie I think is Blade Runner.
Okay.
And so I love the Al Williamson adaptation that came out. The movie came out because it's gorgeous, but it's only like 42 pages or something like that, and there's no way you can. Then it's like it becomes like a fast forward.
Yeah,
like it's a companion.
Choppy.
It's choppy. It's a companion to the movie. Like, oh yeah, I remember that moment, right? But you're reading it, you're engrossed in the experience, right? So what I wanted to do with this is have the storytelling move fast when it needs to, but also takes its time and be textural and be, not that I'm comparing to that, but when you read books like The Watchmen or the Dark Knight Returns, it's like a novel. You're in it. You have the immersive experience of really experiencing the story as it goes. So that's what I was trying to do with this.
And that's the reason why 12 issues, right? You get more of a chance to spread it out, and also more characterization. Because that's the problem with those. Like you said, it's a companion. If you've seen the movie, you understand the characters. But if you just read the comic, it's hard to understand the motivations.
That's exactly right. And especially because it's such a rich world and universe, and it gives you more. There's so much opportunity to go in depth, and
right.
Like for instance, it's like things like Game of Thrones, for instance. Sometimes they make an entire episode out of something that if the story was a movie, it would become a 3-minute sequence.
Right.
So yeah, you get the point, but you're
right. Like if they took the whole game of stories and made it a couple movies, that's what, 2 hours, 4 hours.
Exactly.
They do this big thing, and it's more epic in scope, and you can empathize with the characters more.
Yeah, you can really go in depth into the world, into the characters, into everything. It's great.
Do you find that you've had a positive response? How's this response been to the book so far?
It's been really incredible. I mean, we were not even out in stores yet last year, and I was nominated for the Russ Manning Award at San Diego Comic-Con.
Wow, great.
And so that was incredibly validating and just like made me really feel welcome because I've been in animation for a long time.
Right.
And I was like, oh, comics, it's its own world. And I've been reading comics since I was a kid, but professionally I was not doing comics. So I was just like, ooh, I hope, I feel welcome here. And then I get the nomination right off the bat, even before the book was in store, and that just blew me away,
And you're self-publishing with Dark Planet? Is that?
Yeah, so, it's interesting. One of the thing you were talking about, you could tell, this whole entire story in 4 issues, and there was, different publishers who were interested in doing that, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to really take the time for the story to really exist,
as you saw it in your mind.
As I saw it and do it justice and so on and so forth. So that was my original impetus for starting that Dark Planet Comics, which is, but it's also combining with what I do on the movie side, so it's basically my publishing / production company.
Right. Okay. And how are you hoping to, now that you said the reaction's been positive, are you hoping to increase the frequency of issues, or are you gonna? Is it hard with your day job, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to have a trade out every 8 months.
Okay.
So that means that an issue would come out every 3-ish months, right, and stuff like that. And that's also why, the trades are going to the stores, because a book every 8 months is okay. But that's why the single issues we're just selling off of the website and at conventions. That way, it's more special. You get a collectible item, but also you don't want the stores to be waiting for when's the next thing coming.
Right.
So if you see us at cons or go to the website, you get the issues as you go. And if your thing is going to a comic book store or hopefully soon a Barnes & Nobles or whatever it is, then you're going from trade to trade about every 8 months.
Right, great. Well, thanks a lot for your time. The book's great. Hopefully, some of our viewers and our listeners are gonna pick it up.
I hope so,
because I'm really enjoying it.
Thank you so much.
So I want to thank Stephan for taking the time to talk to me, and I also want to mention that the comics are available digitally. You can get them on Comixology, or you can get the digital copies at darkplanetcomics.com, or you can order the physical copies from darkplanetcomics.com and have them shipped to you. And now I'm going to play the trailer that kicked off this episode in its entirety, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining me.